Folks, if I'm up and recording a video in my garage past 11 o'clock at night, you know something's crazy's going on out there in the market. And yes, something crazy is going out there in the market right now. First off, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And let's get into this, guys. What the heck is going on? So Russell tanking down about 3% futures right now. Okay, I'm going to give you my full opinion, what's going on out there, the truth versus, in my opinion, the BS and all those sorts of things. Because I think there's a lot of stuff being flushed out there right now around Chinese delisting of stocks, what that means for the market. There's a lot of talk about a new Rona strain out of South Africa. And so we're going to get into all of this, and I'm going to tell you what's the actual truth in my personal opinion versus what's kind of the BS. But yeah, futures are looking rough. Russell down almost 3% there. Dow futures down over 500 points. Where they will be at by the open, we'll have to see. But needless to say, it's getting ugly for stocks out there across the board. All right. So I'm obviously seeing this on the front page of CNBC. Dow futures plunge nearly 600 points. New Rona variant found in South Africa. Listen, man, there's a new variant found, it seems like every other week. Like, if you are actually paying attention to this stuff and you're actually kind of keeping up with this, there's always new variants. There's always new worries. Like, I've heard about a million different ones, it seems like, over the past, let's call it 6 to 12 months about, oh, this one's the worst one yet. This one it's more contagious. This one it's going to do more damage. This one's not going to work with the vaccines, things like that. Like, there seems like all the time there's new variants, okay? And so the fact that all of a sudden this is going to matter is kind of like a little baffling to me. And then I even heard some talk around, well, maybe now all of a sudden they care about Rona numbers. Well, look where the numbers got in September. If you actually track those on a one-day basis, right, there was a day we had that was even worse in the United States than when we had the massive spike in 2020, right, and into the beginning part of 2021. So it's interesting that, they would try to pin it on something going on with the Rona. It's just like, come on, man. Like, I feel like that's just an easy pin all the time. Like, during this whole time period we're still in, hey, let's throw it on the Rona. Like, hey, futures are tanking because it could be because of the Rona. It's like, dude, like, new variants are coming out all the time. These numbers have been high. They're still high. They're probably going to go higher in winter. But everybody knows that, right? And so, that is what it is, right? You have this situation, which I feel is more serious than that. I still don't feel like this is the reason stocks are falling and why they could continue to fall for the next several weeks. However, I think this one's much more serious than the previous one. I will say that. SoftBank fall steepens after report that Chinese regulators have asked Didi to delist from the United States. All right, this is a huge deal. This is according to a Bloomberg report. SoftBank shares in Japan were down 4.77%. SoftBank's Vision Fund owned around 20% of DD. This is one of those things that it throws, man, it's just a messy situation. One, it makes folks worry that maybe U.S.-China relations are getting worse, all right? There's already so many worries about Chinese, U.S. relations have seemed like they've gotten, exponentially worse over the past 4 or 5 years. We all know that, right? The tariffs and the back and forth, the drama. We know how it's been, and it just seems like it's not getting better. Let's be honest. All of a sudden, now there's a lot of talk about delisting, and all of a sudden, this is going to worry folks that own Alibaba stock even more. If that stock didn't have enough worries already, right now there's serious talk about delisting a DD. Who's to say it's not happening to Alibaba? Who's to say it's not happening to Tencent, right? Who's to say it's not happening to Neo stock and JD and all the other Chinese stocks out there? And a lot of those stocks have already been hammered, and so now you get and this is the problem with kind of Chinese stocks, is these are real worries, right? It's not like these are some pie in the sky, like just anxiety thoughts, let's call it that. These are real worries. Like, this is something to actually take serious. And if it happens to DD, who's to say it can't happen to Baba? Who's to say it can't happen to Neo and many various others? It's kind of food for thought in this situation. And so it's ugly. It's getting uglier. And a lot of folks are wondering, when does it start to get better? When do the U.S. and China relations in the financial markets, when does it get better? And the answer is, it doesn't seem like anytime soon. It just does not seem like anytime soon, and it seems like it's getting worse, and that's just going to spook more investors. And like I said, this isn't like, there's kind of two separate fears, right? There's irrational fear, which is like, oh, these stocks are going to go to zero or something like that, right? Or, we're going to end up in a Great Depression. Like, it's always a possibility, right? But it's very unlikely, right? Then you got a little more realistic ones, right? Which is like delisting. And when there's already been some Chinese stocks that have been delisted here. A massive one like DD, like this isn't like this is some small micro cap or something like that. Like DD is a huge deal. And so if they get delisted, or just the fact that Chinese regulators are asking to get DD delisted, there's no doubt this is a huge deal. And I think all investors should, pay attention to whatever happens here. There's no doubt. And when you get something like this in the market, it creates more worries out there, right? So I feel like this one's a little more serious, right? Now, there is something good going on. Crude oil's falling. This is good news, okay? This is good news. So this is good news on two fronts, in my opinion. One is transportation costs. Like, obviously, oil skyrockets. It hurts transportation costs. I think it would be great if oil could fall and fall substantially over the coming months. That is a great thing for transportation costs. If you own maybe oil and gas stocks, maybe you don't want that. But outside of that scenario, this is great. You know who else this is great for? The middle class, which I think is going to be the most important thing to pay attention to in 2022, how the middle class is doing, right? And the folks that make $40,000, $80,000 a year, that's the true middle class, especially in the United States of America. And that's, in my opinion, who runs our entire economy. I know it always talks about the Fed and the wealthy and things like that. There's only so much stuff the 1% can buy, flat out, right? The middle class is still, at the end of the day, I don't care what anybody says, the middle class is what drives the United States of America economy, and probably always will be what drives the United States of America economy. The folks in middle class are the ones that push up all the iPhone numbers and push up all the numbers in general for almost all these companies, unless it's a luxury goods company, right? And so at the end of the day, folks have to spend a certain amount of money on oil, right? On gasoline. And if you have to spend extra money to basically fill up your tank, right? Because not everybody has electric cars yet. Actually, the far majority of folks don't have electric cars yet. If you have to spend more money there, it's less money you can go spend with other businesses and do other things, right? Or invest in whatnot, right? So this is one of the few bright spots in a day like this. Well, there's some other bright spots we'll get into in just a moment, okay? Now, I think the markets, let's be honest for just a moment, okay? The market's looking for reasons to sell off, especially large caps. Money's been hiding out in large caps. They've been trading rich, very rich. I think the market's looking for any reason to sell off some stocks here at the end of the year. I'll be completely honest, and maybe even in the front part of 2022. I really think it is. The large caps are trading rich. Money's hiding out there. And it just has seemed like it's a ticking time bomb in terms of, those stocks coming down to more realistic valuations, somewhere in here-ish, right? Even here, there still be roughly, near highs, unless you go back to 99, 2000. So I think there's just they're looking for a reason, like, give me a reason to drop these stocks. And if you look at some of these stocks, Apple was up, 5-10% in the past month. Like, that's just, crazy after it's had this, ridiculous run. And you look at the forward P on that stock and the P of that stock, it's very, very rich compared to where Apple usually trades at. And that's just large caps in general. There's just been a flood of money to those hiding out there. And it feels like those are stocks that they're just waiting for a reason to drop those, right? If you look at small caps, these stocks just continue to really probably trading right around here right now for small caps, especially with, futures where they're looking at. Guys, small caps are getting to disgusting values. I think there's a very high probability very shortly here, S&P 600 small caps could be trading at, somewhere around a 14, roughly, right, for forward P. It's just insane. Like, you don't trade at nearly a 14 S&P 600 small caps unless you're going through some sort of dramatic market. Like, last time we've really been in that range, you have to go back to 2011, 2012. It's just insane. And, this is something that obviously is going on in a massive, massive way. And what I believe is happening as far as those particular stocks, so there's two different things going on. One is, I think large caps are just looking for a reason to sell those stocks. Small caps, I think, and you're not going to hear this talked about almost anywhere else. I will go on CNBC app all the time. I go on everywhere just about, and I don't see this talked about. And, as somebody that's been in this market for a long, long time, I'm like, how is no one talking about this, man? Tax loss harvesting. You guys know, if you watch my channels, I'm preaching this. This is going on in such a massive way with the small caps right now. And listen, we're here at the end of November. It can easily go on for the next 3 or 4 weeks. Tax loss harvesting is insane right now. It's pushing small caps down to such disgusting values, in my opinion. Like if you are a 3-5 year investor, in my opinion, the world is at your fingertips in terms of a lot of these small caps. Not all of them. That's why it's important you know what you're doing in the market. You know how to read financial statements. You know how to read income statements, balance sheets, understand business models on a high level, things like that. It's very, very important. But at the end of the day, this is one of the most extraordinary opportunities I think we're going through in terms of small caps that I've seen in a decade, literally. And so I think there's a high probability that over the next several weeks, there's going to likely be even more tax loss harvesting is going to push some of these stocks down even more and more that are small caps. And we're going to get to some of the craziest levels that we've seen literally in a decade. And it's going to be shooting fish in a barrel, and there's going to be so much money to be made coming out of this over the next few years. It's going to be disgusting. But needless to say, not all stocks will prosper in this. I can promise you that. There will be some that will be laggers, the ones that really don't have the business model, that really aren't going to have those sustained growth rates over the next 3-5 years. Those stocks will still, some of them will probably go up, but they just won't go up as much, right? Meanwhile, the ones that have the best business models are going to thrive. And so this, in my opinion, is the best opportunity I've seen for, I think, the retail investor crowd other than during the Roni Rona crash. Like, that was an extraordinary opportunity, but most folks weren't ready for that. Last year, at this time, no, it wasn't that sort of opportunity. Stocks were shooting up all over the place. And the sad part is that was a time period that attracted a lot of people to the stock market to start taking it serious, right? Everybody got in November, December, January, February, and boom, right after that, down massively, right? Now, going into 2022, we're looking at some of these small caps are just trading at insane valuations in terms of how much their stocks are off 52-week highs, how cheap a lot of these stocks are trading at, whether you're looking at price to sales ratios, forward PE basis, anything you really want to look at across the board with some of these companies that have extraordinary growth and have the type of financial statements to really get you excited, right? And have the type of stories that are there. And so I just look at this as an extraordinary opportunity. So I hope a lot of you folks are going to take 2022 as that serious year to get in the market and take advantage of a lot of these deals, because just to be quite frank, there's a high probability over the next few weeks we get even lower pricing for a lot of these stocks. It's just, at the end of the day, if it's a great company, the lower you push the stock price and the more shares you can buy, the more money you're going to make in the end anyway. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I just think this needs to be talked about a whole lot more, guys. And it's not being talked about. I'm talking about it on my channel, but honestly, I go on all these big financial publications and they're not talking about it. I'm like, put 2 and 2 together, okay? Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out this stuff, in my personal opinion. They're going to talk about the Fed. They're going to talk about taper. They're going to talk about, delisting, which I think is a little more of a serious thing that should be talked about. They're going to talk about Roni Rona. All that's going to be talk. And, I'm like, you do realize, funds and investors in general are down massively on a ton of these small caps, right? Tax loss harvesting. It's a real thing, and it's going on right now, I think, in a bigger way than we've seen. Certainly, I think it's going on in a bigger way than I've ever seen, certainly since I've been in the stock market since 2008, 2009. I've never seen it at this scale and this level that's going on right now, and that can likely continue for the next few weeks. And so it's a massive, just a sell-off. And here's the other factor, could create margin calls, right? No doubt about that. If folks are way too heavy on margin, could create margin calls if some of these stocks get in. So then all of a sudden you get into this forced selling situation, and at the same time you got people tax loss harvesting left and right. It's creating a mess in the short term and so much money to be made in the long term. It's disgusting. So anyways, guys, that's the video for the day. I'll keep you guys up to date, obviously, on all this on the YouTube channels. Much love as always. The massive Black Friday sale is going on right now. Get it before it ends. It is ending very, very soon. If you're somebody that's out there and you want to take stock market investing super serious, not only next year but in future years, take advantage of that deal, guys. That's to get in the private stock group, learn directly from me through all the course curriculums, learn from the 7-figure coaches, people that have been doing this for a long, long time and have gone through market crashes, market corrections, downtrending markets, downtrending stocks, tax loss harvesting. If this is something you actually want to do in a real way and scale your portfolios, this is your time, because next time we have another one of these deals, it will be at this time next year, okay? So much love as always. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe and have a great day.